Hello, everybody. Welcome back to it's another cracking edition of the Threshold podcast. And with me, as always, co-hosting the show with me is Spilly, the billion-dollar business coach, and Richard. I don't know. Do we need to come up with like a name in the middle and then Mulholland? There's something other than professional speaker, you know?
Yes, I am multi-dimensional, I'll have you know.
Don't label him like that.
I defy labels.
Says he wearing a Sum 41 t-shirt, right?
You know, but because they just performed for the last time ever last week. So they did the Juno Awards, which is like the Canadian Music Awards. And that was their last ever live performance. Their last ever full concert was in February. And then so I went to the last time in Cardiff in Wales. And so I bought this as part of my tour swag because last year's one's Heaven and Hell was my album of the year. And I'm not the biggest fan. They're not my favorite band. They're like maybe in my top 20. They're definitely in my top 20. But twice, Screaming Bloody Murder and now Heaven and Hell were 2 times my album of the year. That Heaven and Hell is absolutely brilliant. Brilliant.
Just a side piece. Are either of you emotionally connected to any piece of clothing? Like, are you sentimental about something that you've carried since childhood or your teens? Or like, is there a t-shirt you're never throwing out? Like, I'm curious.
My kilt.
Your kilt's like a kilt is something you don't really throw away. Because
yeah.
Do medals count as clothing?
What kind of medals do you have?
Okay, way to go, Flex. Sergeant Flex. Well, when I was at the Olympics.
Yeah, exactly. No, they're my grandfather's from World War II. So that's probably the only thing.
That's like an heirloom.
No, sure, you wouldn't give that away. No, I'm curious because I think about some of the concerts that I've been to, t-shirts maybe like an ex-girlfriend had bought, or sneakers that I saved up for and I bought. That they just lie in the back of the cupboard, but like there's something about them that's like, I don't want to depart with those things. Not much, but there are a few pieces.
They're lids. So like I've got a Rise Against cap that I bought when I saw them in Toronto, and I don't wear it that much anymore. But like for me, caps are easier to store because you can't kind of throw them on a t-shirt. Eventually gets so fucked up that you get rid of it. But there's something to having. And that's usually the first thing I will buy if I'm looking for swag is I'll see if I can get a nice lid or something, because I think they're easy to be sentimental about.
Don't you have a Maple Leaf shirt or something?
Got about 6 Maple Leaf shirts. I've got some really nice, actually. Guys made me, a friend of mine, Tom McManus, sent me one that has Mulholland and 16 at the back of it, which is really cool. And I've got most of my favorite players: Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner. I've got Darcy Tucker from back in the day. Then I've got one that the kids got me that was signed by a whole bunch of legacy players way back in the 90s.
Sick. Why'd you ask, Brent?
No, because I was thinking about so I'm not a Sum 41 fan, right? But like the very first real concert I ever went to, I went on my own to Wembley to see U2. Literally stood in the queue from early in the morning and then saw them 2 days in a row, like 2 nights in a row. That was like must have been early 90s somewhere, 93, 94 somewhere probably. And that t-shirt I hung on for a million years. My daughter now has it, I think, in her cupboard. I'm hoping. But it's like the memory of being free, young, no responsibilities, exploring a new country, a new city. Like it was a big thing. And when I see that, it brings back all those memories, right? And I don't think I'll ever throw that t-shirt away. I don't wear it. It's a horrendous bright yellow thing that I would never wear, but it does something for me. And maybe it's around my daughter may want to hear the story about it one day. I don't know. But I've hung on to it.
I don't like to hang on to stuff. You know what I mean? Unless it's like super sentimental, like medals, or like my grandfather has like a gold pocket watch. I actually don't even have it in my possession. Because it's that valuable. It's probably worth like, I don't know, probably a shit ton of money. It's like,
did he store it up his ass in the Korean War? Where was this?
Where did he fight?
He was in World War II. He was deployed in Italy, Northern Africa, and then France. He was in the parachute division, so he would jump into the shit show. And
you guys watched Rogue Heroes yet?
What is that?
It's fantastic. It's the season 1 is about the North African campaign. It's Rogue Heroes. I've actually read the book by Ben McIntyre as well. If you enjoy history and military history, he's brilliant. He did Agent Sonia, I think, also. But Rogue Heroes is about the formation of the SAS. So how the SAS started. And I watched season 1 of the show. Then I read the book, which covers basically, I think, what will become the 3 seasons. It was actually, the book was in 2 parts, Africa, Europe, but the second season of Rogue Heroes is finished now, and that's just the beginning of the Europe campaign. And then there's the kind of the last bit of the Europe campaign.
It got, well, I mean, I'm looking at IMDb Rotten Tomatoes, 8.2, 100%. Like, that's proper high scoring. Where are you watching this?
We were watching it, I'm not sure, on one of the streaming services.
Okay.
Really, really, really good. We thoroughly enjoyed. We started watching it, and you know what was an interesting data point for me was something that's changed. So very quick aside. We're on the threshold of changing the way houses work. Because when I was young, the living room was the center of the home. Because after dinner, we watched TV together. So the 2 main rooms of the house were technically the dining room, which we've already kind of moved on from. People generally eat in big open kitchens and things like this. And then so that the person cooking isn't left out. And because I guess the dining room was a legacy of when somebody did the cooking for you and then you sat down in the dining room. And then the other thing is the lounge or the TV room, because it's so rare that I would sit down with both kids and Jazz and watch a TV show. Ironically, the reason I bring this up is Rogue Heroes was one of the few shows that everybody was invested enough in to watch together. So we watched the whole season 1 together. Callum had moved out by the time the second season came. But in fact, he came, visited us, watched it. Bailey hadn't watched it. But it's very rare where you find a show that you, your spouse, and your kids will all watch. And so I think that we're changing the geography of a home, because watching TV is now a singular activity, not a communal activity.
But isn't that sad though, right? I mean, I think about it, not that TV should be the place where you engage with your family necessarily, but at least we had that. Where now it feels like you go to your room and you open up your laptop or your phone and everyone's doing their own thing. It's becoming even, and if we break up the geography of the house, we're reinforcing the breakup of the infrastructure of the family even further. Like, never mind technology, we're physically forcing that. Like, it's quite sad. I'm not disagreeing, but I'm going, it doesn't make me feel good.
So what we did, both of you have been to my Cape Town house. And if you remember, the TV room was quite far down the bottom. That was a room that actually we didn't sit in much with guests. But the dining room where we sat, so it was kind of extended to the kitchen, but next to that was our living room. And our living room didn't have a TV. And that's where the board game table was. That's where the Jazz's wine collection was. So we still created communal space, but the communal space was around human interaction. And actually, there's something healthier to be said about not making all looking. You want to be looking at each other, not looking at the same thing. We spend much of our time looking at the same thing. That said, there are times when we want to, I will insist that we do like a family movie night or something. And it's very democratized how we think about it. But there is nice to have a shared context, a TV show you watch together. What I have found, though, increasingly is that I'll have a show I watch with Jazz. I'll have a show I watch with Cal. I'll have a show I watch with Bailey. Bailey and Jazz will have shows you'll watch together. Bailey and Cal will have shows you watch together. That kind of thing. It's very rare. In fact, probably the last big one we all watched together was Rogue Heroes.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we've got nothing in common. Like with the kids, they're too young, so like I'm not going to watch I don't know,
Bluey.
Bambi.
We're still watching Bluey. It's driving me nuts.
Or what was the other one? Minecraft. It's another one.
Apparently the Minecraft movie is excellent. I've not seen it, but apparently it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So what happens is you guys will find this. You grow out. Before I had kids, I loved animated movies. I loved Aladdin. I loved Lion King. I loved those kind of films. After I had kids, now I can't watch them because for so long I had to watch them that now I just don't ever want to watch an animated film, even if people tell me it's good. It's kind of in my head. I watched Arcane, but that was something I wanted. Oh, cute man. I wanted to watch with Cal, but. Yeah, for the most part, they murdered by my children.
So just while we're on sort of watching shows, my wife and I got some private time alone without the baby and the daughter and everything in the last couple of days. We went to see a play at Monty, which I'd never heard of. We just booked. I heard it was good, called Dear Evan Hansen.
Hansen, yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, but I've heard it's brilliant.
It
I've heard the
is.
play in the show or the movie.
I mean, I didn't know what I was walking into, right? So firstly, not a dry eye in the audience, and the audience was huge. The local actors were absolutely remarkable. I'm not a big musical kind of guy generally, so it's part acting, part musical. Like, I love singing, but oh my God, like emotionally jarring, hey? And like the standing ovation, there's like the fake standing ovation, and then there's the I'm standing up and I'm clapping for this shit because this is unbelievable. There was this amazing thing, and partly because we don't do much of that anymore. We don't do the live audience. We watch TV, we watch, Netflix. So partly like the real person delivering something meaningful is amazing, but the story is epic, eh? It really is. It's really a worthwhile. If it comes to town, highly recommend it.
We did go. Sorry, just to add to that, we actually went to Cirque du Soleil here in Denver. First time I'd ever been to that show, and it was like proper old school entertainment. To your point, Brent, you know what I mean? Like the things these people were doing. I was like, there was this guy and this girl, and he was on roller skates, and so was she, on this tiny table, and he would spin literally on the spot, and then have her hang from his neck with no hands, and like spin her around. Like, it was like just insane. That and many other things. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And the thing is, you see these things with people with talent, and you go like, "And what am I doing with my life exactly?" Sometimes you just like there were some actors that it must have been maybe early 20s, late teens, and just remarkable talent, amazing voices, just the ability to cry on demand twice a day for as many days as they're doing the shows. And then you walk away and you go like, "Geez, what was I doing when I was 20?" Like that's remarkable,
Yeah.
Bit of self-reflection there.
Brent, have you ever supported with Tricker? Do you know Tricker?
No, Jonathan Tricker, we've spoken about. I've never met him.
His daughter's just been cast, and she started last week in the Harry Potter on the West End, which is incredible. Like, it's a really good start to be a West End level musical there. Yeah, that was really exciting. And I was guesting on the Expansive podcast yesterday with John and Eric. And this topic of ovations came up. And I've often spoke about the thing I hate is slovations, where 5 motherfuckers in the front row start standing up, slowly clapping. And then, you feel
I've got to do it.
But I was in the Canary Islands, and I saw a flamenco show. And 1 minute I was sitting in my chair. The next minute something happened. I don't know what happened, but 1 minute the entire audience were seated, and the next second, involuntary reactions, 1,000 people were standing up, cheering. And I thought that was the first time in my life I truly understood what an ovation is. It's when you lose your ability to stay seated. It's not a conscious decision. It's literally, you're like, yes, like when a goal is scored at a sports game. When somebody can produce that for you, that's amazing. And
do you guys ever watch like when America's Got Talent or Britain's Got Talent, any of those sort of shows?
Buzzer stuff. I just watch the videos on YouTube.
Yeah. So do I watch like the Golden Buzzer stuff, right?
That's all I watch.
And of course, the story of like, shame, this poor man who's got no life and no one's ever heard of him, and you're expecting shit. It's not shit because it's on YouTube. It's got like a couple of million views, but it breaks me every single time. It like breaks me.
My favorite of those. Do you remember? So one of my favorite, most nostalgic musical pieces is the Nessun Dorma, which Pavarotti famously sang at Placido Domingo. But and my great aunt Mamie, she always would play that. And so there was an episode of Britain's Got Talent or X Factor or whatever, one of these pop idols. I don't think it was Pop Idols, but there was this guy called Paul Potts, which Paul, but funny, but Paul Potts. And he was from Carphone Warehouse, and he sang the Nessun Dorma. If you have not seen it yet, it's my gift.
Shivers already.
It's amazing. Just so wonderful. I'm going to send it on a WhatsApp group afterwards to watch. Watch how his little geeky face with his bad, awkward smile, and when he sings that hot chick from Britain's Got Talent. You know the one I mean?
Which one?
There's one girl, you'll see her. You'll see her in the. She actually looks like she's having a physical moment. That this guy's blown her away so much, she's in a kind of a state of ecstasy.
Amanda Holden.
Amanda
Holden.
Yeah, that's her. I don't mean it's in a weird way. I mean it in a literally. She was in a like it was wonderful. I'm gonna find it for you. But anyway, so that's her preamble done. What else have we got? Who else is on the threshold of anything now that I've taken us into rooms and home job?
Well, I suppose I've made the decision to sell my business.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Okay,
it's I don't know. Like I just kind of I was having this conversation with my wife, and and the business is cool. It's sexy. It's AI and all that kind of stuff, but I don't love it. And I think my relationship with my business isn't healthy. You know what I mean? And the amount of problems that I have to solve, the amount of context switching that I have to do between different clients, all this kind of stuff. Basically, I just don't love it, man. And I'm like, what's the point? If you don't love something, then just chasing a number is not really, a motivation.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I fell out of love a while back with Missing Link for a while, and Brent actually really helped me through some of this. And it's not, and Wolf, our old coach as well. And I'm back in love with it for what it counts. But what I realized, it wasn't that I didn't love the business, is that I didn't love running the business. And once I got somebody to run the business for me, I realized that there's a difference between ownership and management. Is it that you don't like it enough to even be bothered to have somebody running it so you don't have to think about it? Or is it that because isn't there another option? Or is the only option for you selling it?
I could hire someone to run it, but I just don't trust anyone else to run it. Been in a situation before where a business reaches a certain level of scale, and then you have a middle management team, you have a CTO, CMO, you have a COO, you have a MD or whatever, and then you have a team that this management team can support or drive operationally. And I've always found that I keep getting pulled back in. You know what I mean? It's not a case of like, well, you can just do a presentation and here's the process and that. Presentation business, I'm imagining, is relatively, from a process perspective, quite simple or formulaic, I should say. But with what we're doing, it's quite complicated. You could do all the training videos in the world. At the end of the day, no one's going to run the business as much as you, as well as you will. And so, if I'm understanding you correctly, I would never feel comfortable just, saying, oh, I'm working 4 hours a week. It's not that type of business. It's also it's too young, right? So, I have to be involved in the important conversations. I have to be driving the team. I have to be doing these things. It's still very much owner led or founder led rather than management led, if you know what I mean. And so we're not there yet. We could probably get there, but then that would be another year, 18 months of like pain and suffering. And so what I did was I was like, well, let me just reach out to a broker here and see what they say. Like maybe it's not sellable. Maybe it's not worth what I think it's worth or whatever. So I reached out to them. It was quite funny, actually. I went to GPT, uploaded like the last 3 years bank statements, and I'm like, right, value this business. So it spat out a number, which obviously isn't as much as I would hope it would be, but it's relatively significant. And basically, the broker came back with the same number, and they said, dude, we can sell this business in 6 months. It'll be 95% of transactions like this will be financed through a financial institution. You'll probably have to put a 20% seller financing deal on the table just to sweeten it a little bit. But otherwise, we were 100% confident that we can offload this thing. So I was like, fuck yeah, like amazing, On Sunday, I went to brunch with my wife, and I was like, I think it's actually quite important to know what you're going to do after the sale. Because if you sell it and you don't know, you can actually wind up in a bit of a pickle mentally. And I've had so many interviews on my show, about this, and it's been well documented or whatever. So basically, my wife said to me, well, why don't you do Moto Brewski full time? And I'm like, well, what does that mean? I'm not going to be a YouTuber. She goes, no, like build a business out of it. Because she said, I'm 100% confident that you'll be way more successful if you build a business around what you're passionate about than if you just built a business because you saw a gap in the market and there was a market in the gap. And so that's what I've decided to do. So I don't have like actually, funny enough, I actually said, so, who I'd be really great to speak to about this would be Brent and Rich, because you guys ride motorbikes, you think about things differently. And I'm not talking about like selling or anything, but I'm talking about like Motor Brewski and what that could be and that kind of thing. So I'm feeling a lot better about it. Do you know what I mean? I think I'm more excited about the runway that I would have and the opportunity that I would have to actually do something like truly cool and meaningful for my life and that. Yeah. So that's kind of what's up.
So can I Richard will have a lot to talk about regarding selling the business and the emotional attachment to a business. And like, I have opinion. I'm more excited at the Motor Brewski thing. And the reason being is that, and Rich came on my business bikes and breakfasts in Cape Town. And I was still figuring it out and working what that was. But there was a moment where, we were driving from Cape Town into Franschhoek through Helsehoogte, and there's a mountain, and it was a beautiful day, crisp, sort of beautiful morning. And there were Rich, 10, 15 bikes with us. I can't remember how many guys were on the run. And there was a moment where I was like, fuck me, someone is paying me. They're paying me to do this. This is the best thing in the world, and I'm getting paid for it. Okay. I wasn't making money. I was getting paid for it. There's a difference, right? But there was a point in my life where I was like, if I had to pick a single business that I would want to franchise or replicate all over the world, that would be the thing. Because it was the blend of me on a motorbike, which I love, engaging with people, a little bit of coaching, making a bit of cash, figuring that out. And I'm not sure what Motor Brewski will become, right? But the idea has never, ever, ever left me, ever. It's there all the time. And I worry about attaching revenue and clients to your passion, because, as soon as you love something and a client goes, make the logo bigger, you've got a problem. But I do think that if you're keen to get up in the morning and go, I'm going to get on my bike and go and do something, and it generates revenue, and I don't know what this thing is going to turn into, I'm genuinely jealous and excited at that opportunity that you may have in the coming months. And the thing that I would also state is, if you want to look at this, and I think Rich, Joe Fleming from Bonafide. So Joe's iterated on a whole bunch of stuff, but basically he's become a motorbike tourism business from what I can tell. And he represents one or two brands. I'm not sure where all the money comes from in terms of the revenue, but I follow him online, and he just got back from Lesotho, and they're going to Swaziland, and they do Taco Tuesdays and meat Tuesdays, or the meetup, I think it is now called. And they're doing all these things. And I'm not saying it's a massive business, and are you sure as fuck isn't going to make billions of rands in this particular iteration of that business. But I can tell you now that he loves what he does, like absolutely loves what he does. And I think that when you reach a certain point, if you're going, I want to get out of my business, not because it's not financially viable, but because I just don't love the business, I'm going, then pick a business that you're going to love doing. Like I think I can't promote that more for you than the way I'm excited for you right now. Like, I think it's a wonderful thing, but you got to sell the business first, right? That's a whole different conversation.
I really love Joe. I think he's an amazing guy, but Matt's not Joe. Matt will sit at this, he'll look at it, he'll be hobby it for a while, and then he'll be like, oh, wait a minute. And then he's going to run with an opportunity, and he's going to turn it into something. Sure. And it's about the thing with clients, but not all businesses have to have clients. Businesses can have members. Businesses can be a community. And I think that that's what Matt has always been really good at. But has never tapped into, is he's built community, but turned them into clients and businesses. What happens if he just built community and turned it into community? What happens if people were members of an organization that did something, that hosted rides with a certain formula mindset around the world, or did things? And, what happens if Motor Brewski became more than just riding, but riding with thoughts around, like thoughts from the road, and again, that could be in different things. The nice thing is that he doesn't have to decide straight away, right? So that, and I'm with you as well. I think, it would be different. I guess where I differ is I'm not sure that, I believe that if once you have a business that runs well with management, it's easier to sell business, because if you can show that you weren't already in it, then, and you weren't required for it, and you had the processes and systems that anybody could do, then it does feel more sellable. But if that's just going to get in the way, if you can offload the business in 6 months as it is, fantastic. the question would be, if you did a year worth of effort, really, really driving his process and things like that, would it make it that much more sellable and that much better? If the answer is yes, and it's astronomical, then it could be worthwhile. But even then, you still got to ask yourself: do I need that extra margin? And if the answer is no to that, then just fuck it, just do it.
And also, like, do I want to spend another life in a business that I don't love? Like, like another year, like doing something I don't want to be doing. Like, it's a big question.
Totally. And what's nice for Matt is finally, Matt, this could be a lifestyle business.
Yeah, exactly right, man. Exactly right. I mean, so I do oscillate between your 2 points of view, in that, well, what if I did slug it out for another year? Because, I mean, we're now starting social advertising, because we have these cool products and systems and stuff like that. It's there. It's just, there's no people to run them. Do you know what I mean? And so it's pretty close. And so, and also because we have like 2 AR products and stuff, like we could generate, 1,000 leads a day through social advertising, and we have AI agents that would pre-qualify those guys, book meetings in our calendars, whatever. So that's kind of where it's going. So the opportunity for scale is there, but to Brent's point, like, I'm like, fuck, why, man? It would be like significantly higher cash. It would probably be 200% more, 250% more cash if we just kept going for another year. And so that is appealing, because you think about your kids, right? You're like, well, what could you do with that and this kind of stuff. And funny enough, the other thing I said to the wife at Branch was like, well, here's what you could do with the money that if we sold now. We could go buy like two apartments here in Denver. We could rent those out. They would appreciate in value. You could use that as collateral for loaning, against another business idea. If you had the blueprint for it, if it was a franchise model or whatever, or you wouldn't have to do that at all. Like, I wouldn't have to work for a whole year. Like, I would go out of my mind if I didn't have work for a whole year, so it wouldn't take me a year to figure out my shit, it would be like a matter of like a few weeks, but I'd be measured about it and whatever. So, you know what I mean? Like, we'd be okay. Like, we wouldn't have to work for actually 2 years. None of us in the house. And that would be appealing to the wife because she's not really, you know what I mean? So you think about all the intangible things that are important, that don't relate to a number. And so I don't know yet. We'll see. I mean, if the right offer comes along, and I'll know pretty soon. Like, I'll have 3 or 4 meetings with acquirers, and then they'll start doing their usual bullshit story. Oh, well, like, you don't have a management team, or what about this or that? You know what I mean? And so this is why the 20% seller financing is so important, because then you can actually just go shake a hand, That's literally like loaning back 20% of the sale price of the business to you, to make sure that, so that you feel that you're not being sold a rotten egg. And so it's not a case of like you just walk away, it would be because you want to consult back, and it would be for a period of time. It wouldn't be like 3 years or whatever. So there's no earnouts with this stuff. Or I wouldn't take one anyway. So we'll see. But
there's a risk that they say that we're happy to give you the money you want with or without seller finance, but we want you for a year. Is that non-negotiable for you, or is that depends who the people are?
I wouldn't say that it's a non-negotiable. It's just that I probably wouldn't entertain. I don't know. I don't know what the offer would be. Or
not ideal.
Not ideal. That, you know what I mean? But I mean, hey, either way, you're still getting out, and it wouldn't be like a full-time gig. I think, again, it depends on the terms, right? So every acquisition is different. So we'll see.
The one thing I'd say was that through my little business bikes and breakfast journey, there were a couple of different things that I played with, but the few things that I actually landed up selling, again, they were just experiments, right? But I took guys from a Harley dealership on one of these things, and then curated content around value for them in terms of client experience, understanding their social presence as salespeople. So it was, we get on the bike, we go for breakfast, we run a session where it's kind of training or coaching to some degree, but they're on their bikes, you're on their bike. It's corporate money, and then you could replicate that with every dealer in the country, and then you go to the next brand and do the same thing. So like, I'm not saying that's even what you're thinking. What I'm going is, when you start thinking about what can you do within the community, whether it's corporate money or memberships, there's so many different opportunities there, and it doesn't have to be one thing. It can be a combination of things that you could put together.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I'm always happy to have this conversation offline. I'm happy to throw ideas at you.
Yeah. Well, Nina, my wife, she's like, make this a franchise thing. Because if you think about even so if you think about the life journey of an adventure rider, so they watch a video on YouTube, so that's the Motor Brewski channel. Then they go to a dealership and they spend 15 grand on a BMW GS 1250. That's too much bike for them. And then they need to figure out, like, well, where do they go? Right. And then when they go on these things, like, what routes do you use? Like, where do you stay? Da 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 da. And then obviously there's content around that as well. And then of course there's the community. Do you know what I mean? So like if you think about the lifestyle of the journey, like you could literally do anything around this stuff. So if you think about like Moto Brew, it's got the word brew in it. So you could do like craft beers, you could do smart drinks, you could do whatever, like anti-fatigue vitamin B shots, you could do clothing, you could do, you know what I mean? You could literally do anything. So I think Rich told me ages ago, like, define yourself by saying no. So I think that's probably the first thing, is to look at the journey of an adventure rider and then say, okay, well, where are the gaps? Because I do feel like there's so many gaps here. I mean, just route planning sucks. Like, you have to use Gaia. Like, people charge a fortune for them. The guys who have actually done the due diligence on the routes, and like we were talking about it the other day, like, I've done so much of the Colorado BDR now, like I could build my own route and it would be awesome and no one else would know about it. And so you could license the routes, you know what I mean? So you could have the whole map, like a library.
Well, I think the big thing is, I think Rich agrees with this, is that, like, build the community and then figure out what you're going to sell to them, right? Like, often that is what happens, is that the community will tell you what they want. And then that's where the gap in the market is. Because you will find that there are things like that, but that might not be the highest value return. Buying a map, I get it, right? Subscribing to it and getting a free map, cool. But actually, it's probably the engagement with other people, or it is those big events, or it is tours, or it is deals with different brands, or like, there might be a whole bunch of other things there. But I think the big thing is start building the community, because it sounds like all the things you're talking about require that community or market to be able to market to.
I mean, this is a good segue into, I guess, what Missing Links at the threshold of, and maybe we'll chat about that in a second. To finish one thing up here, that it's funny, I was chatting to a lady just before this who works for a corporation, wants to start her own thing, and she's not doing it because she doesn't know what it is yet. And what we all get that so many people don't get is that you don't have to know what it. In fact, it's almost better to not know what it is when you start. You start and then you figure out what it is while you're doing it, based on what people want. And it's like this kind of weird business ikigai, the intersection of what you dig and what they want and what they'll pay you for and that kind of stuff. But thinking that you need to know what that is before you start is wrong. And I think you can, a good place to start is where Matt is starting this, which is, I don't know, but right now, when I sit in my office working on the AI business, I'm thinking about Motor Brewski. And so I would rather be going there and figuring out along the way what the business model is. And of course, somebody entrepreneurial like Matt will have no problem. Like, your biggest challenge will be that there's going to be too many opportunities, definitely. But yeah, I think it's really exciting. I think it's a good.
The thing that I want to say as well is I had a meeting a few days ago with a lady that started a business about 18 months ago, and she's a like, when you meet a firecracker and you go like, this woman is going to build something big, like, but you can just tell, right? But she's come out of corporate her whole life, and the things that we know, and I say things we know, like we can talk about EO. Entrepreneurs have heard of EO. Build the parachute on the way down. Okay. How many times have you heard that, right? Ready, fire, aim. All those analogies, she has not been exposed to any of those things in corporate land, right? And it's amazing to me because you just assume everyone has seen these things or read the books or follows the podcasts or like has mates that have businesses, and you realize that their inability to start something is because no one said to them, build this, build build the plane while you're flying it. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean? What do I mean? Like, and it's instinctual. Yeah.
You know who, and it's a complete aside, but who reminded me, and I know it's obviously not the same person, but the last time I felt that, oh, this is somebody who's going to be is when I first met Kimberly Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Brent, I think you might have introduced us.
Yeah.
Kim Taylor from Loop Inc. You just, in one meeting, you just know, shit, this person is going to make me feel deeply insignificant. Very quickly.
But you know what's injury to insult to injury there is that she's the nicest human on the planet. So when you go like, this person's going to build something remarkable, and I wish she would, because she deserves it. Like there's not a bad. It's like, it's the best of both, as opposed to, oh, she's a bitch or he's a dick, but he's smart, right? Like, there's a different angle there when you go like, I really hope she does, because she's such a wonderful human. And you come across those people.
I would imagine edge. I'm sure that I just get the impression that I wouldn't want to fuck with her either. But she's absolutely not a bitch. I don't know. I just feel that I don't think she's a walkover. I think when you're that smart and you're that driven, and if people have not checked out her business, Loop Inc., what is it called?
It's just Loop Logistics or Loop.
Yeah. It was something else. What was it? It was like
Kawabanga.
Yeah. And the story about her is fascinating. Matt, do you know the story?
No, is it loop.com? Modern transport cost management.
Yes.
I'll tell you. Yeah, might be it.
So there's a when people are doing, and students are studying, they do this thing called like the traveling salesman problem.
No, it's not loop.com. No.
It's
looplogistics.com.
Kimberly Taylor. Hang on, let me just check here. It's what?
So loop.co.
Yeah.
So what happened is she's doing this thing where she has to solve this traveling salesman problem, which is, here are 10 salespeople and here are 10 addresses, or here's a salesperson. It has to go to the 10 addresses in the smartest way. Now, she was studying like engineering or something, but she creates this algorithm and she submits it, and the lecturer says, yeah, that's pretty good. And she said, no, that's not pretty good. That's the answer. And she said, well, it's an answer. And she said, no, that's the answer. This is it. I've created the algorithm. This is the right way. And then they analyzed it and they were like, wait a minute, this hasn't been figured out properly yet. So she leaves and she has a chat to Domino's, and she meets a guy from Domino's at a conference and says, this is what I've created. This is the algorithm, and gets more than a letter intent, gets basically a deal that when this is created, people will buy it. So she fully forms this algo, and then goes, so Domino's picks it up, then Checker 6060 picks it up. She gets paid money every single time somebody receives a Checker 6060 delivery, every single one of those. She believes that she's created the world's most efficient algorithm, and the mathematics of it, to sell it is so easy, because she basically says, this is how much I save you every single time one of your team goes on the road. And she is so confident and so smart and so driven, and she just figured it out. We worked with her on her keynote and her sales pitch. And it's one of the easiest jobs we've ever done, because her story is so cool.
Story's amazing. Yeah.
Ones that, and listen, something Brent said as well. I mean, she's a very beautiful woman also. And she... No, you didn't. Yeah.
You just did.
Yeah. But she said to me, and she says this in her talk, is she wanted to be the hot girl at the bar. And she meant this both metaphorically and, I guess literally, is that when she created a business, she wanted to create a business that was so sexy that people wanted to flirt with her. She didn't want to have to go up and pick clients up. She wanted clients to come to her. So she said that, like, when you're the hot girl at the bar, people walk to you. You have to create a business that is the hot girl at the bar. You have to create a business where people want to walk up to you and engage with you, and to the point where you're almost like, oh, we can't deal with you right now. And that's what everything about her business was, building up a hot girl at the bar business. And until I'd spoken to her, and she was like maybe 26 when we started working together, I'd never heard that metaphor before. Like you said, there's a lot of tropes in business. The hot girl at the bar business is not one that I'd heard before. And she's built it, and it's amazing. Really one of South Africa's most exciting entrepreneurs, I think.
She's actually doing a talk I saw on Instagram. Is an online talk you can register for, coming up soon. So if you find it, it's Kimberly Taylor on Instagram. I think she was talking about it.
Do you still interview? Do you still have on other aspects of the show where you interview entrepreneurs?
Yeah. I'm happy to have her on, man.
Yeah, you really should.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah.
Connect
very
me. I'm
smart.
keen.
Yeah. So we got 10 minutes. I tell you what this is. So Missing Link, when we were at our breakaway, we were kind of brainstorming, what is the future of the business? And we recognize that presentations has always been a tough sale because it's kind of a low order problem. When persuasion is a high order problem, presentation is a low order problem, even though the skill is broadly needed at the moment. And one of my staff, one of the team actually presented the idea of what if we lean into relevance? Now, obviously, I've written the book, Relentless Relevance. It's a thing. But what if we created this kind of relevance academy or this space where, because I do believe being able to communicate and speak in the world today, in a world that's commoditized by technology, your ability to communicate will step you apart. But there are other attributes as well. And what I'd like to do, and I've not even got that far, but the question I would ask you guys, if I was to build a community of people, so I do have one community, which is my Story to Stage speaking community, people who want to get into speaking, like stage hackers, stage marketers. If I had to build a community, what could it be?
Around the relentless relevance idea.
Well, not even. Let's start with that. If Missing Link was to create a community, and I almost am loath to say Missing Link just because we'll immediately think too much.
Well, the question I have for you is it a Missing Link community or is it a Richard Mulholland community?
Well, let's think about this, right? So Russell Brunson, he's created ClickFunnels. And although Russell Brunson is very much in the middle, in the center of it, or Alex Hormozy is in the center of it, the community is ClickFunnels, and these guys are in the center of their community, but people are funnel hackers. That's what they're excited about. I want to create something that I'm happy to be the champion of, and Missing Link could run it. But again, people wouldn't be missing linkers, but they might be stage hackers. They might be relevanteers. In one of Brunson's books, she talks about that lady who came up with that idea of girl boss. You want to be a girl boss, which has become larger than just her now. What would that thing be? Like, what is the hashtag that people would want to be part of that I could pull off galvanizing? And I know that, eventually that the next phase for me is that elder network, being young elders. And, but
is that not the network? Is that not the community, the elder network? No?
Rich, maybe. The thing is that I'd ask the question is like, what is your superpower? You, not the company. Forget about the company or the execution arm. And it's not what do you do? It's how do you think? What is the sweet spot in your Venn diagram? Like, what is the thing that gives you superpower that is worth way more than anything else that you could do that people would want to pay for or subscribe to? I don't think it's presentation, right? And I don't think it's speaker training or that kind of coaching necessarily. And not because you're not absolutely probably top 5 in the world of that, right? But I'm trying to work out like the way you think and what value you can add. And there are little insights there, and I'm not giving you the answer because I don't have the answer, but it's things like, have you watched Rogue Heroes? Oh, I also read the book. Okay. Like, it fascinates me how much knowledge you've gained from so many different places and are able to condense that storytelling where relevant to the client problem on the moment. You can take someone else's idea, distill it down, make it relevant. Okay. And that's the relevance I think is important for me. It's not relevance in terms of, will I be relevant in a world of AI, or will my coaching become irrelevant?
Right, yeah. It's how do I become, or how do I add relevance to every situation?
Yeah. And I think you've got that superpower is that you're able to, like, out of thin air, pull an example of something that you've read or listened or heard from another podcast, and I say it's superpower because I know my brain can be like a sieve. I'll watch something tomorrow and go, where did I hear that? Well, I wonder where that was. Like, did Richard tell me that, or did Hormozy tell me that? Like, that's how bad I am with certain things. But you'll go like, on page 56 of the Rogue Heroes, in this scene, on this thing, this is what he said. And can you see how that applies to your life? And everyone's like, fuck, that's amazing. Okay. Like your little AI engine. I think there's value there, and that gives relevance to the conversation. That's superpower.
Question.
I don't know what to do with that.
What's the aspiration for that? Well, like, growth hackers. People want to grow their business. Funnel hackers. People want to create funnels that do these things. What is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? If relevance is the rainbow,
it's still the communication piece, right? Because what you're doing is you're landing the story with a piece of relevance, historical relevance or another story relevance, so that you can communicate better. So it speaks back to the missing link. How do you tell the story better? How do you engage with the audience? How do you create action or influence, right? So it still speaks to how you do that, but in order for you to make it relevant to that person. And again, I don't know what the course or the community is.
And it's something to ponder. I'll tell you what the picture of the future is. The picture of the future is that there is an event with 500 people who've flown in from around the world to Cape Town or Isle of Man or Colorado, wherever the case may be. And
I'm up. Where do I sign? I'm in.
and these people come every year to this event because they are part of a community of X. Yeah. And they are defined partially by being this community of X, of people that show up in a better way in a thing. And like I could picture that with Atomic Talks, with TalkDraw. I could picture how I could make that happen. I really do believe there should be something deeper and better, but I'm not sure what that is. And
so the Tony Robbins event for you is that what we're trying to solve for?
Well, Tony Robbins is slightly different in that that is not even a community so much as I don't want it to people come to watch me. I wanted people come. It's like the EO events. People come to the event regardless of who the speakers are because they want to be there with the other members of the community. And the biggest value, like last week at GLC, there was Guy Kawasaki, Deepak Chopra, Ryan Holiday, but nobody arrived at the event. In fact, I don't think most people knew who was speaking there when they booked. They arrived to be around other entrepreneurs, EOers, and that's what I want to create is a level of community where that's what people come for. So beyond this, but the type of community where that fits my unique intersection. So again, imagine this. We could picture this from Motor Brewski, right? Let's go back to Matt.
This is the Motor Brewski solution to solve.
I can see it easier for Matt. I can see Matt having an event once a year, and the only rule for the event is it's an event that happens somewhere that you can only get to by adventure bike. And they give you've got to leave from this every year. They tell you how far away it is. You can meet riders along the way, and then you end up at this event. And it's a deep, intellectual, thoughtful event where things happen, but the common goal is this, and then everybody rides away again. I can picture what that is for Matt. I can see the future community, that the brews or the brewskis and the what are the the motor brews or whatever they are. I can see what that is. I want that for myself. That's what I want to do. I want to create community. I want to galvanize people around an idea, and I've not managed to figure out what that is exactly yet. But I do believe it's relevance.
Just Matt, there's a on YouTube. I'll send it in the WhatsApp chat. There's a thing called the Finisher, which is the Barkley Marathons. Have you heard of the Barkley Marathons? The 100-mile.
No, just great.
But what's interesting around is that like no one finishes this thing up. But anyway, it's the Finisher's about the first lady to ever finish this race. But the thing which I loved about it is that there is no markers along the way. But what they've done is they've torn out. You've got to tear out pages from a book along the route to prove that you got to the book, and the page is relevant to your race number or something.
You don't know when it's finished.
But it's this very interesting thing. But I'm going is I think the idea of going. We do the BDR, but there's the route's kind of unknown. You get given a whole bunch of clues, and you've got to prove that you got to certain milestones or points. Like that could be really cool. Like over a couple of days. Like so, the idea is that you could copy other events in terms of successful events that have a unique flavor to it, and just replicate it with bikes, right? Like just figure out how to replicate that. Like that's one idea. I'm big on the copy and develop thing. Hey?
Yeah, I remember his name was Raymond Lowy. Lowy, the designer, but his thing was most similar but different. So you want to create something that is most familiar but different. Most people want to create something that's brand new, but actually what sells is something that's dramatically familiar to humans, but with a kink. And so you create that. Anyway, boys, I know we're all on time, and I've got to I got to call someone right now.
All right, guys. Well, lots to think about.
Good
Let's circle back.
Yeah, fun to hear all about your journey.
Yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Later, boys. See you soon.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.